New Olive's estate was not just any estate. It was the kind of place people mentioned with pride, envy, and lowered voices. An estate that made people straighten their backs once they heard the name. It sat boldly in the city of Abuja, shining like fresh palm oil under sunlight. Beautiful aesthetics everywhere. Tall modern buildings standing shoulder to shoulder like proud giants. Clean interlocked roads that hardly knew dust. Green lawns trimmed like they were being inspected every morning. Street lights that worked even when NEPA misbehaved. Security men at the gates wore confidence on their faces. Cameras watched every movement. Even the air felt expensive. Of course, living there was not for everybody. Buying a house in New Olive's estate could cost an arm, and if care was not taken, a leg would follow. It was the kind of money that made people laugh nervously when they heard the price. The kind of money that could make a poor man faint mid-calculation. Only the wealthy, the prominent, and the powerful men in the country could afford to buy a house there and live there. Now, besties, I want us to meet someone really important. Makoka, the self-appointed chairlady of the estate. Nobody voted for her. Nobody appointed her. But somehow, everybody knew she was in charge. Makoka was a senator's wife. Gorgeous, fashionable, always overdressed for even the smallest gathering. Her wigs were always expensive, long, full and flowing, like she ordered them straight from heaven. Her designer clothes came in bold colors and loud confidence. Her perfumes announced her presence before her voice did. And her cars, always the latest model. If a new one dropped today, Makoka would drive it tomorrow. Her husband, Senator Olawale, was wealthy. No, he was really wealthy. He had the kind of wealth that did not count money. The kind of wealthy that furnished his house with gold. Yes, actual gold. He had gold chairs, gold tables, gold designs shining everywhere like a shrine. He owned businesses and companies scattered across the country like granules. And he loved to throw parties. Big ones, loud ones, the kind that blocked roads and made the entire estate restless. Because of this, Makoka believed she did not need to work. And why would she? Her husband was making all the money, and they had more than enough. In fact, they had over 10 houses to their name alone in the estates. So, she lived like she was better than everyone else. She was rude, arrogant, extremely competitive. She lived to look beautiful, and she never failed to remind anyone she came across of it. She was always the first to wear new trendy designs. If a style entered Abuja today, Makoka wore it before nightfall. People respected her. Or should we say they feared her? Of course, people respected money, and the Kokas were among the wealthiest in the estate. So, Makoka's only jobs were to look beautiful and make sure she stayed on top in the estate. Everyone bowed to her. No one dared outshine her. Anyone who dared to had automatically become an enemy. Now, let's talk about her clique. Miriam, Lila, and Neye. Of course, they all lived in the estate and were housewives, just like Makoka. Their husbands were doing well. High-class businessmen, politicians, men with money and connections. But of course, they were all lower than Makoka. And that was the exact reason they had remained friends with her for so many years. There was no way they could compete with her. In fact, they did not even try to. They worshipped her like a god, praised her endlessly, and ran her petty errands without complaints. Yes, they were her informants. Every new resident that entered the estate, especially one that came with a wife, they were the ones who carried out investigations. Who is she? Where is she from? What does her husband do? How much do they have? Are they rich or just managing? They gathered the information carefully and brought it straight to Makoka. Yes, Makoka had information on every single landlord living in the estate. And with that information, she monitored them, kept them in check, and made sure no one rose above her. And in exchange for their duties and friendship with Makoka, these women received recognition. They sat at the high table whenever there were meetings. They were among the happening women in the estate, though not bigger than Makoka. You see, besties, ever since the Chinedus moved into the estate, Makoka had her reservations about them. From the very first day, something about the family unsettled her. They were well-to-do. They minded their business. And worst of all, they did not seek anyone's approval. Whenever Mrs. Chinedu attended estate meetings, she always looked her best. Not too loud or flashy, just quietly expensive. Her outfit spoke before she did. And when she finally spoke, people listened. She did not talk much, but she was the kind of woman whose silence announced her presence. Her English was polished, clean, smooth, and confident. No struggle, no unnecessary explanation. And whenever she addressed the gathering, her words were so well articulated that even the ceiling fans seemed to pause and listen. That scared Makoka. Makoka hated the woman for no reason at all. Her confidence choked her. Her calmness suffocated her. Anytime Mrs. Chinedu was around, Makoka felt a strange tightness in her chest. Deep down, she knew the truth. She could not compare to her level of education, and that truth annoyed her more than anything else. Her clique had reassured her endlessly. Ma, she is no match for you. She is nothing. She doesn't even shine like you do. But the fear still stayed, hidden and locked somewhere deep within. Until one day, the news broke. The Chinedu had run into serious debt as a result of a bad business deal. Things had gone wrong, very wrong. So wrong that they had to put up their house for sale. They were planning to leave the estate. Just like that, gossip ran through New Olive's estate like a Harmattan fire. Have you heard? Which one? That family on Block C has fallen. The Chinedus. Phones started ringing. Voices dropped to whispers. And smiles, sweet wicked smiles, hid carefully behind fake sympathy. When Makoka heard the news, she couldn't hold it in. Ah, she smiled, slowly, satisfactorily. She lifted her glass of wine and took a careful sip, letting it rest on her tongue as though she was tasting victory itself. Almost immediately, she reached for her phone and gathered her clique at once. Where are you right now? I have a sweet, hot gist for you, she said into the phone, her voice bubbling with excitement. This one is worth celebrating. Come quickly, you can't afford to miss it. And just like that, the ladies gathered like jobless flies. They sat comfortably in her living room, legs crossed and eyes shining with anticipation. Oh, life is funny, Makoka began, shaking her head as she shared the story of the Chinedus. With the way I'm seeing it, They may end up in a face me I face you apartment somewhere in the slum of Lagos. Mon Dieu, she laughed. Is God not great? She leaned forward, lowering her voice dramatically. I heard they lost everything. Everything. The source told me that their situation is really bad. They are selling up their house at almost nothing because they are under pressure. She clapped her hands once. She can go and be the queen of the ghetto now. Speak her big grammars. The other women burst into laughter, holding their stomachs and wiping tears from their eyes. Let's just sit, my dears, drink and relax small, Makoka added casually. This one is worth popping a champagne for. She called the housekeeper, who hurried in and poured them more wine. Cheers to the fall of our enemy. Makoka raised her glass. Cheers. More to fall, the others echoed. They burst into loud laughter. That was code for party. This was what these women did every time, celebrating people's downfall, especially those ones who seemed like a threat to them. This was not the first time something like this would happen. This was how they lived their lives. For Makoka, this behavior had a name. She called it celebrating the downfall of their enemies. And of course, the other women never argued. How could they? Everything Makoka said was always correct, at least in their eyes. Who were they to question her? Who were they to think differently? Their loyalty was absolute. Normally, they carried out these evil celebrations quietly behind closed doors. Low music, low laughter, hidden wickedness. But the one that truly broke the estate's hearts was during the funeral of Senator Fumilayo. Senator Fumilayo was a strong woman, a woman who embodied power with class. Her husband lived abroad and she was doing extremely well for herself. Imagine a female senator. While they were just housewives, people talked about her constantly. In fact, many times when Makoka's husband complained about her extravagant lifestyle, he would always point at Fumilayo. See Senator Fumilayo, he would say, a woman with brain and class, a woman who competed among men and came out victorious. But Makoka never saw it that way. Do you know how many men she had to sleep with to get that position? She would snap at her husband. Female politicians are low-key whores. She hated Fumilayo with intense passion, a quiet hatred, a burning rivalry. She was intimidated by Fumilayo's effortless success, by the way she carried herself with dignity and class, by the way people respected her without fear or money. She hated it most during estate meetings. "My senator, we would love to hear your opinion." Fumilayo would smile, then speak calmly, intelligently, with confidence. Should have seen Makoka then. Her blood pressure would rise to over 300 degrees. Her smile would tighten, her fingers would clench. When it was rumored that Senator Fumilayo was sick, you should have seen Makoka. She almost organized a Thanksgiving service. That very night, she and her friend held an all-night drinking party. "I knew it," Makoka exclaimed loudly, raising her glass. Her sins have finally caught up with her. "I saw this coming." They laughed. They laughed and laughed. They even danced to someone else's tragedy. It was painful to watch. It was from them that the rumor spread that Senator Fumilayo was carrying HIV, because Fumilayo was growing thinner by the day. While many sympathized with her, Makoka and her clique were busy spreading fake news. "I don't feel sorry for her one bit," Makoka scoffed. "What do you expect? After jumping from one man to another, you think she would go scot-free?" Her sins finally caught up with her. Estate residents shook their heads whenever they heard such things. Some sighed, some whispered prayers, some simply walked away. Then, one day, Fumilayo died. People cried. The woman was loved and respected by many, but not Makoka and her wannabes. That evening, they celebrated fully. No more Madam Senator, Makoka laughed. At least, no one will be challenging my opinions at meetings with plenty English. On the day of her funeral, Makoka, Miriam, Laila and Neye arrived. So well dressed, excited, laughing too hard. You would even think they were going for a party. After paying their condolences with fake sympathy, they sat at the corner, eating hot plates of jollof rice loaded with large chunks of meat. As they ate, they analyzed the life of Senator Fumilayo, where she went wrong, why she deserved what happened to her. I mean, sickness and death, and why it could never be them. They laughed as if they had nothing to worry about in life. People sitting near them could not believe their ears. These women are really wicked, they whispered amongst themselves. Something changed in New Orleans after the funeral of Senator Fumilayo. It was not loud, not announced. There was no meeting called, but everyone felt it. The rumor about Makoka and her friend's conversation about Mafumilayo at her own funeral spread around the estate. Sophia, evil women. People kept on snapping their fingers in disgust. The greetings changed first. Good morning. Before, voices used to bend when they greeted Makoka. Now, they were flat, quick, almost forced. Some people just nodded without saying a word or stopping. Some pretended to be busy on their phones. Some crossed to the other side of the road entirely. At first, Makoka did not notice. How would she? She had lived too long believing the estate belonged to her. But Miriam noticed. Lila noticed. Neye noticed. They noticed how women shifted their chairs whenever they sat down. How conversations died the moment they joined. How laughter stopped halfway. At the children's playground, mothers pulled their children closer when Makoka and her clique arrived. Not openly though, just softly. One woman whispered to another, not knowing Miriam could hear. These women are terribly wicked. Miriam froze. Another voice followed. Imagine laughing at a dead person at her funeral. God forbid such hearts. The whisper spread. In the gym, at the gate, near the borehole, at the salon. Always whispered, never shouted, but sharp enough to cut. Makoka soon began to sense it. She felt it in the way conversations paused when she approached, in the way eyes watched her, not with admiration anymore, but caution, judgment. At the next estate meeting, she arrived as usual, dressed to kill, perfume heavy in the air, wig laid perfectly. She expected silence, respect, attention. Instead, people barely looked up. When she spoke, fewer heads nodded. When she cracked a joke, the laughter came late and weak. For the first time in a long while, Makoka felt something unfamiliar crawl up her spine. Discomfort. She adjusted her wrapper, cleared her throat, spoke louder. Still nothing. Her irritation grew. She went home that day angry, snappy and restless. Did you notice how they were behaving today? She asked later, pacing her living room. Her clique laughed nervously. They knew the truth. They knew what was going on, but they just didn't want to speak. Maybe they were tired or hungry. People can just be funny. But Makoka was not convinced. That night, she lay awake longer than usual. Her mind replayed faces, looks, silences. And for the first time, the estate did not feel like it was under her feet. It felt like it was watching her, and Makoka hated that feeling very much. For the longest time, families were the only ones who usually bought houses in New Olive's estate. By families, we mean top-profile personalities, men with titles, men with long convoys, men whose wives arrived quietly behind them. But that very hot afternoon, something different happened. When a cyber truck drove into the estate and parked in front of a newly built house, people literally stopped breathing. Not many people owned a cyber truck. In fact, some residents had only seen it on the internet. Security men froze, children stopped playing, even generators seemed to pause. And when she climbed out of the car, soft whistles filled the air. "What?" one man exclaimed loudly. It was a young lady, and she was drop-dead gorgeous, the kind of beauty that did not beg for attention. It commanded it. She smelled of wealth, not perfume wealth. Her eyes were covered with dark shades as she stood there straight at the magnificent house before her with a slow, satisfied smile. Behind her, servants began to unpack her bags carefully, as though each one carried something precious. At that moment, the estate could have sworn that a goddess had come to live among them. Before anyone could even recover, rumors began to spread. People who had met her in person came back with the same reports. "She is sweet, so humble. She greeted me first. She smiled at me. She is very friendly. No pride, no noise, just presence." When the clique took the information of the new residents to Makoka, she almost ran mad. "What do you mean?" she snapped. "Tell me, how beautiful is she? Who is she? And who do you think is sponsoring her lifestyle?" She paced the room angrily. "You mean she is stealing the attention in this estate, amongst both old and young?" She fired several questions at once. Questions her clique had no answers to. "We will go visit her," she said sharply, "after our meeting this weekend." She paused, her voice dropping. "I need to strategize. Find a way to win back the hearts of people to myself before I lose it all. Then we can have her time." They all nodded, but the air was tense and heavy, as if something bad had already happened or was about to happen. If only they knew. The day of the meeting finally came. As always, it was held at the estate clubhouse. Flashy cars arrived one after the other, engines humming proudly before going silent. Doors opened, perfumes filled the air. People settled down quietly, exchanging low greetings and cautious smiles. Makoka had finally come up with what she believed was a very interesting plan. A party. Because what else could her dumb brain come up with? Everyone knew what it meant whenever the Cokas hosted parties. It was noisy, filled with plenty food and too much display. She was confident that this would win back the hearts of people. She arrived as usual, embodying gorgeousness. Her wig properly laid, her makeup flawless, her outfit screaming money. And because she had heard that the new lady smiled a lot, and that was why people liked her, Makoka plastered a wide smile across her own face. But it looked weird, forced, and uncomfortable. People whispered amongst themselves, "Is she okay? Why is she smiling like that?" Makoka ignored the murmurs and cleared her throat. She proposed the party confidently. "There will be assorted food," she announced proudly. "Plenty drinks. I ordered 2 fat cows." She paused for effect. "And of course, souvenirs. Imported foreign items." But instead, She was met with silence. No excitement, no cheers, no impressed faces. Nobody cared. She was still talking when she noticed the movement at the entrance. The new lady walked in. Makoka froze. Who invited her, she thought angrily. Even Makoka could not deny it. The lady was drop-dead gorgeous, beautiful inside and out, dressed to kill without trying. For a moment, Makoka was speechless. She simply stared. "Oh, I'm sorry for being late," the lady said politely. "I guess the meeting began earlier than I thought." She smiled warmly. "Meanwhile, my name is Chibbe. I just moved in. I've met a few of you who told me about the meeting, and I'm happy to be here." Your welcome voices echoed all around the hall. Makoka cleared her throat sharply and tried to continue talking about the party. But Chibbe interrupted gently. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was thinking I could host you all tomorrow," she said calmly. So we can get to know each other since I'm new." She didn't even finish her sentence. Excitement was already dancing in people's eyes. Yes, we will. We can't wait." Makoka couldn't believe her eyes. "I proposed a party first," she screamed. But no one responded. No one even looked at her. "Okay," someone said excitedly, "so we will be making it an all-white party." "Yes, and we will call it Chibbe's party," another added. Everyone clapped. "So, since we are all settled with the party," Chibbe continued calmly, "don't we have other things to talk about? I mean, like important stuff." The hall went quiet. "Okay, I'll take the cue. This estate is filled with wealthy people," she said. "I've talked with some of you, and I think we should discuss how to give back to the society that made us all. I think our meetings in this estate should always be intentional." People leaned forward, looking all interested. Chibbe continued. "We could fund scholarships, dig boreholes in rural areas, build schools, hospitals." She smiled softly. "On my part, I would donate largely to anything that we all agree to do. I don't mind spending as long as it is for a better cause." A loud applause erupted. People nodded eagerly. This was the kind of change they wanted. In that instant, everyone forgot about Makoka as they listened to Chibbe. It was just as if she didn't exist anymore. Makoka sat there fuming. She had never been this humiliated in her entire life. And to think this small girl did it to her. She was losing power, and she knew it. She had to do something to stop this, and quickly. Makoka and her 3 little witches stopped Chibbe just as she was about to enter her gate. "Hey, excuse me." Chibbe turned slowly. Then she smiled, that calm, effortless smile. Well, look who we have here," she said lightly. "The famous Makoka, the senator's wife." She tilted her head slightly as if studying a painting. "I've heard a lot about you," Chibbe continued. "What a pleasant surprise. I've been looking forward to your visit." Her eyes moved briefly to the women behind Makoka. "And judging from what I've heard, I guess these are your, her friends." Miriam cut in quickly, forcing a smile. Chibbe chuckled softly. "Nah, I don't think so," she said. "Her puppies is actually the right word." She shrugged lightly. "I can't see any friendship here." There was a minute of silence. The boldness with which Chibbe stood up to them shook Makoka to her bones. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not to her face. Not in her own estate. Makoka's eyes narrowed. Do you know who you are talking to? She snapped. I am Makoka. Chibbe nodded calmly. I know, she replied. That's exactly why I am talking to you this way. I am usually nice, except to people like you. Murmurs rose from the clique as they looked at each other. You come into this estate and start stealing attention, Makoka continued angrily. Hosting parties, talking nonsense in meetings, acting like you own the place. Chibbe folded her arms gently. You mistake my kindness for weakness, she said softly, and silence for fear. Her voice was low, controlled yet sharp. You've made a habit of humiliating people, Chibbe continued, celebrating their pain, feeding on their downfall. She looked Makoka straight in the eye. That tells me everything I need to know about the kind of person you are. Makoka scoffed loudly. Listen to this one, she laughed mockingly. And who do you think you are? James Bond? Chibbe smiled again. Someone who will humble you, she replied calmly, whether you like it or not. That was when Makoka lost it. You this shameless girl, she screamed. You think I don't know your type? Anyways, I don't blame you. I blame the stupid men you sleep with. An animal like you. A whore. You sleep around with big men to fund this fake lifestyle. As for me, I am married to a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Her puppies gasped dramatically. I will expose you, Makoka continued. I will let everyone know who you really are. I will chase you out of this estate. You see this your tiny legs, eh? You will run away with your slippers in your hands. She pointed a finger aggressively. Go and ask about me. Chibbe burst into laughter. Not nervous laughter, real laughter. She wiped a tear from her eye and shook her head. Well, let's see how this plays out, she said calmly, as she turned away, leaving them staring at her back. We are in trouble, Naya said. Shut up, fool, Makoka thundered as she stormed away. Chibbe had not come to New Olive's estate to play at all. She was calm, kind, respectful, quietly supportive. She was not a noisemaker who announced herself. Neither did she try to compete with anyone, yet her presence was felt everywhere. Whenever Chibbe heard that someone in the estate was sick, she showed up, not empty-handed. Sometimes it was with fruits, other times cooked meals or snacks. Sometimes envelopes slipped quietly into palms with a gentle smile. No camera, no audience. When a family lost a loved one, Chibbe was there, sitting quietly listening, holding hands, comforting without loud speeches. People began to notice. When good news broke in the estate, Chibbe celebrated genuinely. Promotion, she clapped the loudest. New baby, oh, she brought gifts. She loved children so much. Business breakthrough, she congratulated without jealousy. She supported good projects, scholarship, community ideas, anything that would benefit others. Slowly, she began to teach the estate something it had forgotten. That people were not measured by what they had, but by how much impact they made in the lives of others. New Olive's estate was no longer just a zone of competition. It began to feel like a community again. Love flowed freely, laughter returned, kindness spread, and Chibbe's name was on the lips of everyone. Have you met Chibbe? She's so beautiful and kind. She's different, rich, but without pride. Without meaning to, people began to compare Chibbe and Makoka. And slowly, very slowly, loyalty began to shift. Emotionally, Makoka watched everything from her balcony, from her car, from whispers carried around by her 3 witches. Her chest burned with rage. She was furious. This was not how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to remain on top. She was not going to allow it, and she did not care how she achieved whatever she wanted. Chibbe must leave the estate. She just had to find something. Then, Makoka did something nobody saw coming one day. At the next estate meeting, she stood up, cleared her throat, and did the unthinkable. She apologized publicly. She spoke about change, about peace, about turning a new leaf. I have reflected, she said solemnly. We've all said things we shouldn't have said in the past. We've all done things we regret in the past. But I want us to move forward as one. The estate was shocked, mouths dropped, eyebrows lifted. People looked at each other to confirm they were hearing correctly. Was this really Makoka? Then, she walked closer to Chibbe, smiled, and extended her hand. Chibbe welcomed her politely, gracefully, but she was careful. Makoka, however, already had a plan. The estate's end of the year party was approaching. It was usually held in the public garden, but this time, Makoka suggested something else. Chibbe, she said sweetly, you have such a beautiful garden, and the space in your compound is large, larger than the ones in many of our compounds. She gestured grammatically. Why not host the party there? The estate will be happy to attend. You deserve to host this year's party. You've really brought fresh air into this estate. Plus, it will be more fun in your place. Chibbe hesitated, but the words sounded sincere, and the smiles around her were genuine. Chibbe agreed. Convincing the estate was not even difficult. Everyone loved her, and they were all excited. Unknown to her, Makoka had a terrible plan. On the night of the party, Makoka and her friends already had everything planned out. The party was lively, music loud, plenty food, cocktails flowing, laughter filled the air. By morning, the estate was in chaos. Almost everyone was purging. Some were vomiting uncontrollably. Others were defecating blood. One woman stooled until she fainted. All the hospitals around the area were filled up. Beds ran out, doctors were overwhelmed. It was confirmed. The food they ate was poisoned. Panic took over New Orleans estate. Then Makoka sprang into action. She began to spread the news. I saw Chibbe adding a substance to the food and drinks, she said loudly. I thought she was spicing it. I didn't know it was poison. She even had photo evidence. A picture showing Chibbe adding something to the food. When the police arrived at the estate, Makoka showed them everything. The estate was torn into two. Tongues began to wag. Why would Chibbe do something like this? Why would she want to kill us? But some felt she was innocent. Fortunately, Chibbe had CCTV cameras installed in her compound. The footage told the real story. It showed Makoka and her clique poisoning the drinks. The estate residents were furious. Witches, they screamed. We thought they had changed and turned a new leaf. They must pay for this. The police arrested Makoka and her clique. And for a while, the estate was calm. Her plans to bring Chibbe down failed miserably. Makoka returned to the estate 1 week later with her clique. Fortunately for them, no life was lost, so it was easy for them. But at that point, she had lost every single ounce of respect. No one regarded her anymore. People whispered openly when she passed. Heads bent together, mouths moved, eyes judged. Shame had become her new name. Evil woman. People said boldly whenever they crossed paths with her. They had no fear again, no respect. As for her clique, they were suffering the same fate. People also avoided them like plague. But something else happened. They began to stay away from Makoka herself. Their husbands had warned them strictly. It's either your marriage, one had said coldly, or that evil woman called Makoka. I will not allow any of you embarrass me again in this estate, another thundered. One by one, her little puppies abandoned her. And just like that, Makoka was alone. For the first time in her life, she learned a bitter lesson. Then, that people who gather around power disappear the moment power is gone. And just when she thought she had seen it all, something terrible happened. Senator Olawale got into trouble. And I mean big trouble. He was caught on his way to Lagos with human heads. The news hit the country like thunder. It was discovered that Olawale sold human parts. A very heavy scandal. It trended everywhere. The estate was on fire. So that man is evil. He smells like a saint, but does dirty business. So this is how he made all his money. So fiakwa, blood money, ritualists. People could not hold their tongues. The truth had finally removed its mask. Olawale was impeached immediately. All his properties were confiscated. His accounts blocked. Within a couple of days, Makoka and her children were thrown out of the house with nothing. Nothing. She could not even bring out one single piece of property, except the clothes she was putting on. Worse still, she had nowhere to go. Not 1 naira saved in her name. She sat outside crying, pleading with the policemen, but no one listened. They locked up the entire place. People stood around, laughing, recording videos, taking pictures. They had seen the mighty queen fall to the sand. By evening, some unforgiving neighbors hosted an all-black party on behalf of Makoka. They titled it The Fall of the Witch. Yes, she deserved everything that happened to her, they said, as they drank and danced happily. The irony was bitter. That night, Makoka went from door to door. Friends she once drank with, women she once controlled, people who once bowed before her, but none opened their doors. No one wanted anything to do with her. She slept outside that night with her children, cold, broken, ashamed. The next day, she continued going around, begging, crying, but people only laughed. Evil woman, they called her. Finally, some residents who hated her so much reported to the authorities that she was disturbing the neighborhood. And that was how she was driven out of the estate, with nothing on her. They moved to the slums of Lagos, where Makoka, the senator's wife, began to fry akara to survive. Her hands stained with oil, sweat dripping down her neck, pride completely buried. Oh, how the mighty had fallen. Her pictures flooded the internet. People laughed whenever they came across them. And in that pain, in that hunger, in that humiliation, Makoka finally learned the bitter lessons of life in a most painful way. People who celebrate another person's fall are digging their own grave. True power is not wealth or status, but character. And karma needs no help. It knows the address at the right time. Hey besties, we've come to the end of the story, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned 1 or 2 lessons from it. I would love you to share your thoughts in the comments section. And if you love our stories but you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do not skip this video without hitting the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post new stories. Thank you so much for your love and support. They mean so much to me, and I hope you're enjoying your holiday. Right now, I have to go and see you in our next story. Bye!
Gather round the fire, children, and all. Come hear a tale that's yet to be told. Epic tales by Mara's voice, of tricksters, queens, and lovers' joy. Where trees can talk and spirits roam, and every